This is exactly where my money goes every single time I get paid, and why the order you do things in honestly matters more now than it ever has before. Prices today are about 30% higher than they were just 3 years ago. Yeah, that stings. So I went back and specifically updated this video to help you deal with what's actually happening in 2026 and beyond: rising inflation, slowly dropping high-yield savings rates, and higher annual limits on retirement accounts. This detailed flowchart is going to walk you through how to think about and plan where your money goes each month, right after your paycheck hits. I'd recommend saving this video so you can come back to it whenever you need a refresher. Alright, let's get into it. Step 1. Pay the minimums on all your debts. The very first thing your money should do after you get paid: cover the minimum payments on every single debt you have. Credit cards, student loans, car loans, and yes, even those buy now, pay later things count too. Think of this stage as just keeping your head above water. You're not trying to win the war on debt yet. You're just making sure you don't drown. Missing even one payment can seriously damage your credit score, and a bad credit score can make life genuinely difficult. Try renting an apartment or getting a decent mortgage rate with poor credit. It's not fun. Your credit score is built from 5 different factors, but 2 of them are the big ones. First, your payment history. Pay on time, consistently, and your score stays healthy. Second, how much of your total available credit you're actually using. Just those 2 things together make up 65% of your entire credit score. At this stage, you don't need a master plan to wipe out all your debt. You just need to make sure everything is on autopay so you never accidentally miss a bill. We'll get into the actual debt payoff strategy in Step 5. Step 1.5. Automate everything. Yes, this is its own step. I know, a Step 1.5 sounds a little weird, but I put it here because if you do this one thing, everything else in this video gets so much easier. Trust me on this. Step 1.5 is full automation. If you can set up automatic transfers for everything we're about to talk about, that single decision might genuinely be one of the best financial moves you ever make. It completely removes you from the equation, and honestly, that's the whole point. Here's the psychology behind it. If the money moves automatically, before you even see it sitting in your account, you can't spend it. You don't have to rely on willpower. You don't have to remember to transfer it every month. It just happens. Like magic, but for your finances. Most banks and brokerage accounts let you set up recurring transfers. After you finish this video, spend about 15 minutes going through each step and setting up the automatic transfers. Future you will be very grateful. Step 2. Cover your essential living expenses. Step 2 is about setting aside money for your core monthly budget, the stuff you genuinely need to keep your life running. I personally keep this money in my main checking account, or sometimes in a separate account I label essentials. The key is to actually sit down and calculate how much you need every month: rent or mortgage, groceries, healthcare, utilities, transportation, all of it. Here's a quick example. Let's say someone pays $1.750 a month in rent and $300 in utilities. Add in a car payment, insurance, groceries, phone, and internet, and their total monthly essentials come to around $2.910. If that were me, I'd make sure my account always had at least $2.910 in it, and probably a little extra cushion, maybe $3.300 or so. In personal finance, having a little buffer is almost always a smart idea. Things happen. Now, and this is important, this monthly operating budget is not the same as your emergency fund. They are 2 completely different things. The emergency fund is coming up in Step 3. For now, just know, keep them separate. You'll also want to categorize your spending into needs, wants, and savings. This part is genuinely useful, and I can't stress it enough. The classic guideline is the 50/30/20 rule: 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings or investing. If you live somewhere expensive, your needs bucket might be closer to 60%. If your cost of living is lower, maybe it's 40%. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here. You have to actually run the numbers for your own situation. Step 3. Build your 2026 emergency fund. If you've watched my videos before, you probably already know what an emergency fund is. Quick recap. It's money set aside only for true emergencies. Not a vacation, not a new couch, real emergencies. In the past, most financial advisors said 3 months of living expenses was enough. But honestly, given how unpredictable the economy has been lately, I think 4 to 6 months is a smarter target for 2026. So if your essential monthly expenses are around $2, $500, you're aiming for somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 in your emergency fund. I know that might sound like a lot. If it feels overwhelming, start with a smaller goal, like $5,000, and work your way up from there. Progress counts. I'd still recommend building this before you start investing heavily or putting money elsewhere. An emergency fund isn't glamorous, but it's the difference between a bad month and a financial disaster. In 2026, I actually think it matters even more than it did a few years ago. Where should you keep it? A high-yield savings account. Your money earns real interest and stays accessible when you need it. One heads up though, back in 2023 and 2024, a lot of these accounts were offering 4% to 5% annually. Those rates have come down to around 3% to 3.5% now, depending on the bank. Still way better than the standard accounts paying a sad 0.11%, but it's something to keep an eye on. If rates keep dropping, we may need to look at better options down the road. For now, high-yield savings accounts are still the move. I'll drop some links to accounts I personally like in the description. Step 4. Start investing for retirement. Okay, once you've tackled the first 3.5 steps, it's time to actually start building your future. That's step 4. The best place to start is your employer's retirement account. A 401k if you're in the US, a workplace pension if you're in the UK, superannuation in Australia, or an RRSP in Canada. Different name, same idea. A solid goal for 2026 is to put 10 to 15% of your salary toward retirement. For those under 50, the annual 401k contribution limit is now $24,500. If you're 50 or older, you can contribute up to $32,500 with the catch-up contribution. And if your employer offers a matching contribution, please take the full match. Seriously, that is free money sitting on the table. Don't leave it there. Beyond the match, contributing more to your 401k is totally valid, but there are a few other options worth considering first, which we'll cover in Step 6. One thing to know about 401k accounts: the money is generally locked up until around age 59 and a half. For some people, that lack of flexibility is a concern. Fair enough. But I still think it's one of the most powerful tools available. Here's a quick example to make this real. If you earn $75,000 a year and contribute 10%, that's $7,500 annually. If that gets invested in the S&P 500 for 40 years, at an average annual return of 8%, you could end up with roughly $2.1 million by retirement. Starting early, ideally in your 20s, and staying consistent is everything. And again, this is exactly why Step 1.5 automation is such a game changer. If the contributions happen automatically without you touching anything, the results can be even better. Step 5. Pay off high-interest debt. Now we're getting to the part most people actually worry about: paying off debt. Step 5 is about tackling your remaining high-interest debt. My rule of thumb: if the interest rate is above 15%, that's high-interest debt, and it needs to go. There are two popular strategies for doing this. The first is the avalanche method. You pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first, then work your way down. Mathematically, this is the most efficient approach. It saves you the most money, but fair warning, it can feel slow and frustrating at first. Let's say you have 3 debts: a car loan at 7%, a credit card at 25%, and a student loan at 4%, and each one has a $3,000 balance. Which one do you tackle first? The credit card. Without question. It's costing you the most every single month, so you hit that one hard first, then the car loan, then the student loan last. The second strategy is the snowball method. Pay off the smallest balance first, regardless of interest rate. The goal here is momentum. Knocking out a small debt quickly gives you a psychological win and keeps you motivated to keep going. It might not be the most mathematically optimal approach, but if it keeps you on track and actually paying down debt, it absolutely works. Try both and see what feels right for you. This stuff is personal. Now, a question I get all the time: can you invest while still carrying debt? Yes, but only if the interest rate on that debt is consistently below about 4% to 6%. For example, if your student loan is at 4% It might actually make financial sense to keep it and invest at the same time, since the stock market has historically returned around 8% to 10%. So technically, you'd be coming out ahead. That said, if paying off your debt first gives you peace of mind, that's worth something too. Every dollar you put toward a 4% loan is essentially a guaranteed 4% return. Personally, I just don't like being in debt, even when it might not be the most optimal financial choice. Mental health matters in money decisions too. Ultimately, it's your call. Don't just do what some random person on Reddit says. Choose the strategy that actually works for your life. Step 6. Invest beyond your 401k. You've made it to step 6. Here's how I personally think about investing beyond the basics. First, I'd make sure I'm getting the full employer match in my 401k. Then, I'd max out a Roth IRA. After that, I'd either keep adding to my 401k or open a regular taxable brokerage account. The big appeal of a Roth IRA is that all the growth inside it is completely tax-free. When you pull that money out in retirement, you owe zero income tax on the gains. That's a pretty sweet deal. In 2026, you can contribute up to $7.500 per year to a Roth IRA if you're under 50, or $8.600 if you're 50 or older, thanks to the catch-up contribution. The catch: you're contributing after-tax money, so you've already paid taxes on it going in, but you'll never pay taxes on it coming out or growing. Once you've maxed your Roth IRA, if you still want to invest more, you can open a taxable brokerage account or keep adding to your 401k. A taxable brokerage account is just a regular investment account, no special tax perks, no contribution limits, and you can withdraw money whenever you want without penalties. The trade-off is that yes, you'll owe taxes on any profits. Here's how the tax side works. If you buy Apple stock and sell it within the same year for a profit, that gain gets taxed at your regular income tax rate, which can be as high as 37%. But if you hold the investment for more than a year before selling, it qualifies for long-term capital gains tax, which is much lower, usually between 0% and 20%. So here's my personal strategy. Inside my Roth IRA, I lean toward higher growth ETFs and stocks. Since those gains are completely tax-free, I want as much growth happening in there as possible. In my taxable brokerage account, I stick mostly to simple long-term index funds like the S&P 500, QQQ, or SCHD. They're tax-efficient, low-cost, and historically reliable. But honestly, the most important thing isn't having a perfectly optimized strategy. It's consistency. If you keep investing regularly, even if your approach isn't flawless, you'll still be miles ahead of people who never invest at all. Step 7. Build multiple income streams. You made it to step 7. And if you're actually at this point in the flowchart, that's genuinely impressive. You're already ahead of most people. You've built a solid foundation and you're investing consistently. Now it's about playing offense. Step 7 is about building multiple streams of income. According to data from Inc.com, 65% of self-made millionaires have at least 3 sources of income. In 2026, relying on just one income stream is increasingly risky, and I don't just mean because of layoffs. AI is reshaping entire industries, and economic uncertainty isn't going away anytime soon. Building a diversified income system is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to deal with that kind of unpredictability. And this applies not just to investments but to your income sources and skill sets too. You don't need to work 80-hour weeks, but if you can carve out even 1 to 5 hours a week for a side hustle, earning an extra $100, $500, or even $1,000 a month can dramatically change your financial trajectory over time. Here are a few ideas worth considering. First, you could offer freelance services based on skills you already have at your day job. Good at copywriting? Offer that to businesses on the side. You already know how to do it. Second, you could invest in high-quality dividend stocks to generate steady, passive income. Third, you could build a content channel on social media. Yes, it takes time to grow, but the upside can be significant. Fourth, you could start a small online business or sell handmade products. I actually know people who run online shops selling handmade jewelry and woven bracelets, and they bring in a surprisingly solid side income. Fifth, you could teach a skill you're good at. Long-distance running, rock climbing, academic tutoring. If you're good at something, there's probably someone willing to pay you to learn it from you. Sixth, You could look into real estate, either physical properties or REITs, real estate investment trusts, if you want the exposure without the landlord headaches. The best part? Whatever money you earn from these side projects can go right back into the financial plan we've been talking about. That means growing your emergency fund faster, maxing out your Roth IRA sooner, or putting more into your brokerage account. Over time, it all compounds, and that's when things really start to snowball in the best possible way. Wrapping it all up. All right, that's exactly what I do with my money after every paycheck in 2026, and the exact order I do it in. If you found this video useful, consider subscribing so you don't miss future ones. Thanks for watching.